So I just wanted to begin by reading out this quote from Johnny Depp in Playboy magazine 2004, where he said, "I'm totally in agreement that women are the stronger, smarter, more evolved sex." So yeah, I do not want to debate this point any longer. That this man, Johnny Depp, is just a filthy liar, and that everything that comes out of his mouth is just bullshit. It's just always bullshit. And almost always it is. And it's like he can't help himself, and it's like a sickness or something. And it's gone to a point where it just makes me look bad. And because I can't pretend like this thing between Johnny and Amber is in any way close, like, because it's just not close at all in my head, because he constantly tells these blatant, provable lies, and I can't lie when I analyze this stuff, and it makes me look really bad because it seems so lopsided towards Amber. And people watch these videos and they say to me like that I'm being so biased and that I only believe her because she's a woman and that I'm not being objective. And like, first of all, this is not a case that requires belief to begin with, and I don't even talk about my beliefs. I never said that I believed her. I just said that she told a story that made sense. And that's all I'm trying to say about the difference between them two, is that Amber tells a story that makes sense, and Johnny Depp, he's just bullshit. It's always bullshit, just constantly. He can't stop it. And it's not me not being objective. I can't help what he is, and it's not my fault that he's such a dirty liar. And he's saying, like this quote, he's saying women evolve to be the stronger sex. Really? Stronger? He said stronger. And he's like, I'm in agreement. Like, with who? Who is he agreeing with? No one agrees with him on that point. No one agrees. Like, he's on his own with that one, because it's such a ridiculous, demented, it's just a lie. It's not true. It's not true. Women are not stronger than men. No one believes that. And that is the one thing that Amber asked him, like dared him, like, say that to people. Tell them that when me and you have physical fights, there's a fair fight. Say it. And he didn't say that. He's just lying again. It's just like he's a player. He's a playboy. So he said, I have never struck a woman in my entire life. And that's just a lie.
Harder it is when you use a drink. Like, look today, how much up and down and violent and sideways it is.
No. You have no understanding about that. You really are naive.
I am.
Because
But I do love you.
booze does not make me.
But I do love you.
Booze does not make me
I
crazy.
do.
Drugs do not make me crazy.
I do love you.
Tolerance of a fucking
know.
battleship.
I know.
And here's the
But
deal.
it got so much worse
You
today
make
once
me
you...
crazy.
Yeah,
And the
sure.
reason that I drank so much, you go, why do you drink so much? Why do you drink all the time? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Was because of
Me.
you. Yes.
It's my fault you drink. Okay.
It's not your fault. It's just, that's why I did it.
Johnny really doesn't sound like he's psychologically intimidated by her. Like when she says how much harder it is when you use and drink, like today, how much up and down and violent and sideways it is. In response to that, he just says that she is really naive. And this whole idea, like with the word violent, what is it in reference to? Because it's kind of a strong word. Is it just him slamming cabinets and stuff like that? We don't know. But then he's saying like that the booze and all that, that's not the thing that makes him crazy. He's saying that it's Amber that makes him crazy. And that's what I've been saying. Like, it's not related to the drugs and the alcohol. Like the monster, I don't think it's real. And it's not specific to Amber. I have another quote from him in an interview in magazine. And this was in 1995. He said, there were times when it wasn't even that I was fucked up, just that I was mixed up or angry and didn't know where to turn or what to do. I didn't have any perspective, you're loaded with anger and resentments. It's very close to the surface, and if somebody pushes the wrong button, then the demons come out. There were a number of years when I was controlled by those demons. So this was a long, long time ago, and he said the word demons, and he said before the word monsters, Amber used the word demons. But if this is in 1995, it predated her from a long, long time. And this whole thing where, does he maybe black out and hit her when he blacks out or something like that? I think that he absolutely does know when he hits her, at least some of it. He's aware of some of the times when he has hit her. It's not always a blackout. There may be some things where he doesn't remember, like the Australia thing. He might not remember that. But, you know, if you think about the context with their relationship, these abuse claims, they were not news to him. She used to tell him, like, hey, you did this stuff to me. Do you remember any of it? And he'd be like, oh, gosh, maybe, I don't know. And he just, like, apologize. He'd say, sorry, that will never happen again. It's a big mistake, da da da. And this is all well documented stuff, like on tape and in text messages. And then on the side, you see other text messages where it seems like he's joking about that to his friends. Like he's saying that like he calls himself a savage and an insane person, saying that he pounded Amber. Well, I don't know. And all this stuff is like, maybe he does have more awareness than he knows. And I think he might, like, maybe there's a part of him that enjoyed doing it, like to beat up this woman who's like nagging him all the time. And like maybe it was kind of fun for him, because there was that time where he said that how much he loves it, that he's an insane person and he loves it. So, and then at the same time, he's also feeling ashamed about it after the fact, because there's those accounts of him like crying after being told these things, like the text message from Deuters and Amber's own stories of these things. She's saying that he cries after he hears about it. And he's describing like this is a very specific type of abuse, and it's not comparable to Rihanna and Chris Brown, I don't think. Right before the trial, I watched a documentary about Jimmy Savile. So it may have coloured the way I saw this case a little bit, but what had happened was that this woman was given her descriptions of what happened to her in all those years, and there was this bit that really stuck out to me where she said that it wouldn't make sense to a lot of people, and it might sound strange to them, but the worst thing that he ever did to her was like he would shove his fist in her mouth, and she said that it was the worst thing because it felt like the most humiliating and dehumanizing thing. But in isolation, maybe people wouldn't think that counts as sexual assault. And it just got me to thinking like how we define what sexual assault is, and like Monica Lewinsky and stuff, and how Bill Clinton like kind of shifted the definitions of like, and it depends on what you define is and all that stuff. And like in this trial, it just seems like Amber wasn't really given a fair shot in being believed as a victim, and it comes down to like people like projecting their idea of what they think that the worst thing should be. And I don't think that that's the right thing to do. Like instead of like listening to what the victim is saying, because Amber said that this trial was the worst of the worst of his abuse to her. And for me, I thought that did sound about right. But I think sometimes when people hear that, they say, well, if she thinks that the trial is the worst thing, then that proves that the rape didn't happen, because that the global humiliation can't be worse than being raped and beaten up. I think our society, we always question, why does the victim act the way they do, say the things that they do, and we don't really like try to focus on like why the abuser might be doing the things that they're doing, and like trying to understand their perspective. It's always on the victim to explain themselves. And I guess for me, like I tried to the trial just didn't make any sense to me, and I paid attention to Johnny Depp's perspective and like how he thinks based on all the evidence and his pattern of behavior and the way he talks about certain things, like looking back at all his past interviews. I think you should consider like they're being treated as blank canvases, both Johnny and Amber, when they're very special people, you know, like they're not like everyone else, they're different, and they have a different point of view. And something like with the whole acting stuff, like Johnny himself would describe it as him whoring himself out. And, you know, people like, oh, he's so upset that he's not allowed to do these movies anymore. When he himself said that being on Pirates of the Caribbean, he felt like a whore doing that. It doesn't sound like that he likes to do it as much as everyone else is saying that he loves to do it. And I think it's very important, like, to think that maybe if he is the abuser, why would he do what he's doing? Like, having these allegations out in the public, why would he want something like that? And there's this quote from Johnny Depp himself where a while ago he said about photo shoots, he said, well, you just feel like you're being raped somehow. Raped, the whole thing. It feels like a kind of weird, just weird, man. Whenever you have a photo shoot or something like that, it's like you just feel dumb. It's just so stupid. Yeah, if we keep in mind like that he is the one that filed these lawsuits, he's the one that made her say these things. Like, she was forced to say these things against her will, and he knew what she was going to say, and he wanted her to say it in public. And there's those text messages where he's saying that the goal is global humiliation, and he again fought for the cameras to be in there. And whether or not these sexual allegations are true, like, none of it has been disproven. He hasn't disproven any of the sexual assault claims that she said, not to me at least. And I just don't. And they're just gonna sit there. And he wanted this all to be in public. And you think, why would he want this? Like, because it could have been confidential, like in the UK case, it could have all been buried or something. But it seems like maybe he had some malicious intent in doing it like this. Like, maybe he wanted her to relive the trauma, and for people to like ridicule her and laugh at her, which is it's just insane that happened. That people did that was completely insane. So to refocus on the physical abuse claims that Amber made against him, after she got the TRO, because people doubted her story, she released a statement saying, "During the entirety of our relationship, Johnny has been verbally and physically abusive to me. I endured excessive emotional, verbal, and physical abuse from Johnny, which has included angry, hostile, humiliating, and threatening assaults to me whenever I questioned his authority or disagreed with him." And after that, Johnny and Amber did this mutual statement, and it seemed like Johnny kind of agreed with what she said, because he signed this thing saying that neither party made false accusations for financial gain. And when you look at her statement, what I'm taking from it, because she specifically, in those 4 adjectives that she used to describe the assaults, she didn't use the word painful. And in her own testimony, again, she's not saying that the physical assaults are painful to her. She's not talking about him beating her up with his full strength. That's not what she said. The only thing that she said was painful, the main thing that she said was painful, was him headbutting her, which is something that he, on tape, admitted to doing. And so, but most of the physical abuse, as she says, is that he sort of pins her down or holds her in place against her will for a long time, and taunting her while he's doing it, like being verbally abusive while he's doing it. She says that he's hitting her hard repeatedly with an open hand for a long time. and it seems like he's doing it in like it's a power trip for him. If you try to take her seriously in her allegations, and give it a chance, it seems like this is a very possible thing, that he's doing it as a show of dominance over her. And people say that, like, where are her bruises? She should have so many bruises. And when I'm listening to her descriptions, I don't understand why she would have bruises, because if someone's hitting her with an open hand, and it's not going to leave too many marks on her. And she's given pictures. She's shown pictures of grab marks on her arms. So she had bruises from him having a tight grasp on her, apparently, and an ex-friend of Johnny kind of testified on her behalf to seeing those grab marks in person, like finger marks on her. So this is from when he physically restrained her for a long time, she's saying. And I don't even think that Johnny's team argued that she put makeup on her arms to mimic the look of bruises, and because witnesses did see those kinds of restraint marks. And that doesn't necessarily mean that could be from a lot of things, not necessarily caused by Johnny Depp, but they are on her. And Johnny Depp does describe, like, restraining her sometimes, maybe not to that level, but he talks about holding her arms back in certain points, so it's believable that he calls that. And to me, I think that does count as physical abuse, and he can do that because he is stronger than her. Make no mistake that he is stronger than her. Men are stronger than women, despite what Johnny Depp said, like, or what he personally believes. In a fight, like, Amber would always lose against him, always. So why did he fight her? Because he describes it as a fight. Why is he choosing to fight her? Because it's not about who started it, it's about who finishes it. And his mother taught him, like, if anyone invades your world, you should pick up a brick and lay them out, whatever that means. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense to believe that he did those things. If he signed that document saying no one made false accusations for financial gain, it seems like he at least restrained her and did some of that stuff. So, and she's probably not the first, and she's definitely not the only one he has abused.
As Kate Moss, Kate testified, it was many, many years ago. And what happened is what she said happened. I recall speaking with Ms. Hurd about that very incident. Because of the downpouring of rain, because it was raining very heavily that day that Kate slipped. And I recalled the story to her.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Where do I begin with this whole Kate Moss thing? Like, the way his lawyers had that little side parade and, like, fist bumping each other and acting like this whole thing was such a slam dunk for them. And I guess their thought process was that if they could prove that the rumor wasn't true, and, like, say this is a Me Too case without any Me Toos, like, that's what the whole plan was, I guess. And the problem with it was that this entire trial was about, like, drilling down this idea that you can't believe a woman based on her word alone, and that women lie for no reason, I guess. Like, that's the whole thing that they've been trying to tell us this entire time. So when Kate Moss, like, came up there and gave her story, her 2-minute story, and I have not built up any credibility with this woman. I don't know who this woman is. I don't know Kate Moss. And they're trying to make it out like I should believe what this girl's saying over Amber, who I've gotten to know over the past, like, 6 weeks. It's, like, kind of ridiculous. Like, why would I trust this new woman over Amber? It makes no sense to me. It really shocked me. Like, they wanted me to believe what she had to say, like, just based on words. And I was just thinking, like, where is her medical record? where are the pictures of her injury? And saying that she fell on her coccyx, and it's like shouldn't she be paralyzed or something? Like, if you fall directly on your coccyx, shouldn't you be paralyzed? And if you're not paralyzed, then it means that it didn't happen, and obviously she's a filthy liar. That's what I've learned this entire trial. I don't know what I'm supposed to get from this. They didn't disprove the rumor to me at all. And what's worse is what Johnny Depp had to say. What's worse with Johnny Depp is that he very clearly does not get the victim treatment when he goes on the witness stand. So, like, when he started off by saying, there was never a moment where I pushed Kate down any set of stairs, yet she spewed this 3 times before. I'd never heard a rumor of that before Miss Heard grabbed hold of it. And I looked into it, and that seems to be right. Like, that was never a thing, that Kate fell down some stairs while Johnny was next to her. Like, that was never a thing. And so it seems to be true. Like, I don't know where Amber got that rumor from exactly. And I tried to look for it on the internet, and I don't think it ever was a thing. And I don't think it was ever a well-known thing. Like, maybe behind the scenes it might have been something. And then Amber said that her exact quote was, he pushed Kate Moss down the stairs. I heard this from 2 people, and this was fresh in my mind. So we began with this narrative where apparently Amber makes these things up in her head, and there's no truth to it whatsoever. And then they said that she might have been the one to spread the rumor or something like that. And the problem with that is, like, there was something straight after that. Johnny has this, like, he has a fatal flaw, and he's like, he talks way too much. He ruins his own stories. This fascinating moment where he was like, and what annoys me the most is that he's always the one that keeps shooting himself in the foot, and no one notices it. And that's how I know, like, he doesn't get the victim treatment. No one pays attention to what he says. No one's, like, picking apart what he says. And it's really irritating to me. And he's saying he gave Amber more credibility because he's saying that she heard the story from him. He said he recalled the story to her, which that's probably a lie, because Amber said that she didn't hear it from him. She said that she heard it from 2 other people, not him. And it seemed like a lie, the way he was pulling on his ear when he said that he remembered telling it to Amber. And again with that, like, why does no one think that that's weird that he would tell his story to Amber? Why does no one think, why would Johnny Depp tell Amber this innocuous story of Kate Moss slipping on a rainy day? I don't think he would. I think it's an obvious lie. I think he must be lying. Like, it makes no sense for him to say the story to her. I think he just makes things up as he goes along, and he ruins things by himself. And then there seems to be, like, this inconsistency between Johnny's story and Kate's story, because he said she slipped, her legs went up, and she fell directly on her coccyx, on her back. He wasn't supposed to have seen it. Kate said that he walked away, and she said that she had to scream out to get his attention, so he didn't witness her falling. He wouldn't know if her legs went up. So that didn't make any sense to me. And then there's this, they seem to remember the story in quite a bit of detail. They both told the same story. I mean, it seems like Johnny just copied everything Kate said, so maybe she was the one to remember, not him. But I don't know, this whole story stinks to me. Like, I don't know if I believe this. There's something really off about it. Kate says she fell downstairs, and Johnny described it as 3 steps. I don't think you describe 3 steps as stairs. If you were to retell the story, I don't think the stairs would be an important part of the story, because the thing that made her slip is the rain. So I don't think the stairs would be part of the storytelling at all if someone were to retell it. So everything about the story doesn't make any sense to me. I definitely don't think Johnny told the story to Amber. I don't know if this thing happened at all. I think it might all be a lie that they concocted together. Or maybe Kate Moss hurt her back, and falling down the stairs was like one of those classic abuser victim cover stories, and she didn't fall down any stairs ever. Like, that's my other theory of what happened, but I don't know, something about the story really stinks. Kate Moss only spoke for 2 minutes, so I don't know, maybe he forced her to do it somehow. I just don't believe it. I really don't believe it. Something about it just doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest. Going back to the staircase incident, it's a very significant piece of the puzzle, because Amber she's saying that this is the first time that she actually struck him back. Like, she's saying that for years she was his punch bag, but she never hit him. And this was the first time after all those years where she actually like landed one. And by Johnny's own account, he's saying that the main acts of violence that he's saying that she committed to him happened after 2015. Meanwhile, Amber had been reporting the violence since 2012, and the two of them had text messages between each other where he was the one apologizing for his behavior. So I think this tracks, like, this could be the only time where she hit him, and it's the only one that was actually proven that she caused that to him, because they took a picture of his face. There's like a little bruise on his face on that date, 2015, March 23rd, 2015, and in the UK they took that picture and they tried to change the date to the birthday incident and say that she hit him again on that day, but they used the metadata to prove that that was the only time where she was proven to hit him, and that's all they have on her. So that could be true. And with the staircase, and I hate it so much. Like, there've been so many conflicting accounts of what happened. It's just honestly, it makes me sick. It's so sickening how much they've changed their stories. Debbie Lloyd texted about it. She said, "All hell broke loose. He had Travis get me back there around 4. Good thing he called, or they would have hurt each other. They had to physically restrain both of them." And then there's this, Travis also said that Amber was the only one that needed to be restrained in the UK trial. In this one, he said that he had to pull Johnny away. Johnny and Amber had a phone conversation where they talked about it, and he said that Travis had to come to pull me off of you. So it makes you question, like, why is he fighting her back? Why is he on Amber? Why does he need to be pulled away? And I don't know what happened. I don't want to think about it too much because it's genuinely nauseating. But yeah, I don't know why they talked about Kate Moss so much. Like, no one cares about it. It's all about Amber. Like, no one cares if he pushed Kate Moss or not. The question is, like, has he pushed Amber before?
No, and you hit back, so don't act like you don't fucking
I
participate.
pushed you.
I believe he has, so what are we talking about exactly? Why did he choose to waste everyone's time?
Did you ever see Miss Heard physically attack Whitney?
No, I've never seen any full-on blowouts, physical blowouts between them. Tons of verbal, they fought.
And when you say fought, do you mean physically or?
Physical.
And when you said Miss Heard would push Whitney around, do you mean that to physically push her or metaphorically?
Both.
And who was the source of those demeaning words and the whine that you just referenced?
Well, that would be Amber Heard, her sister.
And how do you know that?
Well, I witnessed quite a lot of it. The whine in the face was something that happened in New York, which I think that even made it into the papers. I believe that even made it into the papers. It was in an elevator.
How did you first learn about that incident?
Miss Hurd told me. In detail. I've certainly seen Miss Hurd grab Whitney, push her around.
What are we doing? Like, seriously, what's happening right now? Why are we here? Why do we have to sit through all of this? What am I supposed to make of everything he just said in that moment? I hate how it's so obvious that, like, no one is drilling this man. No one is treating him like he's actually an abuse victim. If you compare it to the way Camille and Amber speak to each other, that's pretty typical for, like, an abuse victim, like a real abuse victim. Like, people are acting like Camille is doing something unique and that she catching her in lies, and she's drilling down on any slight word inconsistency, that donation and pledge, that pathetic thing that she spoke about for hours and hours, it felt like. That's the main thing that she had against Amber. Talking about if she had makeup or not, and Amber explained that how makeup can cover up a bruise and all that stuff. This is all very normal to an abuse victim, a real abuse victim, and that's how lawyers treat them, and it's always been a little bit disgusting, but that is how it's done. So fair enough, she was just doing her job, but then when it comes to Johnny Depp, like, these special rules that only apply to him, like how he's able to directly contradict himself just minutes apart. I can't. Like, to just recap, like, what's happening with this whole thing, he couldn't get anyone in there to back up this idea that Amber is a violent person. All her exes, like, she had one ex that she got arrested for a domestic thing for, and she came forward and said that Amber is completely innocent. And he tried to get some of her other exes in. He tried to get James Franco and Elon Musk to get in, but I don't think they were going to say anything against her, and they didn't end up saying anything in the end. But yeah, I mean, if we talk about a Me Too case without any Me Toos, so he ended up having to speak on behalf of Whitney, who already testified, and he starts talking about these fights, these physical fights that he has and hasn't seen at the same time. And he's such a bad liar. It kills me that he's such a bad liar. Like, he could come up with better lies than the ones that he did. I feel like he just does this on purpose to see what he can get away with. But this thing about the wine, throwing wine in her face, like, that's a believable thing, right? But then he's saying that it happened in an elevator. I don't think I've ever seen anyone drinking wine in an elevator. Has anyone seen someone drinking wine in an elevator? Where did this actually happen? I'm so curious about this incident. I've never seen anyone drinking an open beverage in an elevator before. It was the weirdest thing trying to imagine the scene. And then he's saying that it made it into the papers. I looked for the story online, but I couldn't find anything. But just thinking about it, it's not a newsworthy thing. It wouldn't make it onto the papers. Amber Heard is not that famous to begin with, so why would her having a fight with her sister make it on any newspaper? It makes no sense. It just doesn't sound right. And why is there no evidence? Why have they not shown, like, footage from an elevator, a picture from this alleged paper that it was in? Like, there should have been more, but they didn't have anything. He's just saying stuff that doesn't make any sense. And then when he was asked how he heard this story, he said he heard it from Amber. Again, why would Amber tell him this story? Like, I hate that he says stuff like that. And he's saying that she told him in detail. He gave no details. I'm dying to know the details. I want to know exactly where this happened. But ultimately, I think it probably didn't happen at all. And I hope that kids study this whole trial in the future and take note of the look of utter confusion on Amber's face every time this man opens his mouth. And even on the tapes, like, there's that one tape where he's telling her about a lie that she told, and she's like, what lie? I don't know what lie you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, ever. Like, I never know what you're talking about. Do you know what you're talking about? Like, that whole thing that she was saying to him, like, does he know what he's gonna say before he says it? Like, it seems like he wasn't prepped by his lawyers when he answers these questions, because they're so inconsistent. Like, just minutes apart, they're so inconsistent. And I hate how no one talks about it. It kills me. It really kills me that no one discusses this. And then when we go by the stuff that he said at the end there, like, his definition of, like, a physical fight, physical abuse, he's saying that Amber pushed Whitney and grabbed her. And if we go by that definition of physical abuse, isn't this case closed? Like, because there is evidence that he has pushed and grabbed Amber before, so isn't this case closed? Isn't he guilty? If we define physical abuse as that, he's just guilty, right? So why are we doing this? Why are we here? Why did we have to sit through all of this for 6 weeks? Why? And I've seen there's these pictures of them two together that I found really funny, where he's like grabbing her. Like, Camille presented one where Amber has makeup on her face, and she's like, your face looks fine. Because she's saying the day before he physically attacked her, and she's like, your face looks fine. And I was looking at the picture, and it was like, does it? Like, she looks so uncomfortable in that picture. She doesn't look fine to me. She's looking at him like, don't touch me. Look at her arms. She doesn't want him to touch her, and he's like touching her. I don't think she looks happy with it. And then this other picture where he's like grabbing her wrist, and it's kind of a tight grip, like he's proper digging his little fingers into it. I was like, why can't he just like hold her hand like a normal person? He's so ugh. Why would he open up this open up that can of worms of like saying that this does count as physical abuse? And Amber handed in like 50,000 pictures of stuff. We don't know what's in it exactly, because some of it got blocked. They didn't show us everything, but obviously in that whole time that she's known him, like those 5 years or so that she was with him, she has had real bruises, and then she's shown bruises all over her body, like on her legs, on her arms. She's had tiny bruises. Even back then, there were some people questioning like why she has bruises on her all the time. Like a fan was questioning about it on this site, and they were saying like, does she like fall off her horse all the time? Because they kept noticing she had these little bruises on her. But then there's like certain bruises like on her wrists and stuff that it's like grab marks, and that seems to be like an obvious sign of like of her being physically restrained. Like, it's not accidental, because bruises on her body, like, that could be anything. It could be because she's athletic. Maybe she is like someone who falls off her horse a lot. I don't know, but grab marks is very specific, and I don't think it can mean anything aside from like her being physically restrained by someone. And he's also pointed out stuff like marks on his face, like scratch marks on his nose and stuff like that. He points that out. He's so stupid, and that's something that you would get from someone trying to fight off being restrained. So I don't know why he points that stuff out. Like, it makes him look bad. And in the future, like, if we can learn anything from this trial, whenever a man says he had to physically restrain someone, like a girl, for his own protection, Can we like always side-eye that? It's always like a huge red flag. It's a complete lie. It never needs to be done. Obviously we know there are other options. Like, he's pointed them out. He said that he can run away, he can hide, he can like literally just sit there and do nothing. Those are all fine options to do. And I don't know why it's being ignored, like people saying that he had to like hit her back if she hit him. It's not necessary. If she pushed him, he has to push her. Not necessary. Why does he have to push her back? He could just like do nothing. Why was he on her after the incident in the staircase? Like, why did he need to be pulled away? So in the future, you know, with what's fair is fair, we know that women don't have the option to physically restrain someone who is bigger than them. So whenever someone says that they needed to physically restrain someone for their own protection, always question that and think, you know, they're probably the abuser if they say that. And that's all I'm gonna say.
By the way, you just threw a fucking cigarette on me.
I can certainly say that without hesitation, there is no way under the sun that I would flick a cigarette at her or burn her with a cigarette. If I flicked ashes and an ash got on her, but she's certainly not screaming out in pain as if a cigarette is being put out on her. That's ludicrous. That's me in the emergency room. And I see a detail that I'd forgotten, which is the Ms. Hurd had taken my cigarette from the ashtray and stomped it out in my face here. This is after the finger had gone away, and she stubbed it out in my face and on my cheek.
So what I don't understand about that is that if it made him scream out in pain, like how could he possibly forget about that? It seems like such a significant, memorable, traumatic detail that how can anyone forget it? Unless like maybe you don't actually scream out in pain if a cigarette is being put out on you. But like then again, you think him, like he of all people should know what that feels like, because if it happened to him and if he's there, like if he really is there, like present in his mind, he can understand. Like if he truly does remember these things, then how could he forget that detail?
Multiple auditions, and one of the auditions Johnny Depp was there, or several of the auditions.
Yeah, several.
When I read that, I was like, just reading that made me nervous for you.
Yeah, exactly. And just imagine, it was an intense experience, but luckily I don't think our bodies are built to remember what that kind of pain feels like.
It was like when somebody's in a car accident and afterwards they say they don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
Throughout the trial, Amber's lawyers would constantly reiterate the point that if you believe that he abused her just one time, then she automatically wins. And at the closing arguments, Camille countered by saying, if Amber lied about one thing, it's possible that she could have lied about everything. And that point makes absolutely zero sense. And she said about the Australia incident, she was referencing that, and that's the one point where Amber has a very compelling, she's provided a lot of evidence for that, like the cut up nightgown with pieces of meat in it, and the bloody notes that he wrote with his own blood. It came out directly out of his finger. So she has a lot to suggest that maybe what happened like the sexual assault could have happened. So I don't see what she was trying to do with that. And she's trying to make it seem like this is solely a he said, she said type thing, and it's either you believe Amber's words, and if she's a credible witness, and blah blah blah. But I think it's not directly like that. It's because the problem is that Johnny Depp is the one who constantly incriminates himself. It's not people believing Amber, it's just that he's very suspicious sounding by the things that he said. And when it comes to a Me Too case, that doesn't usually refer to domestic abuse. It's usually about sexual harassment in the workplace and stuff like that. And, if you're trying to say that Amber might have been a manipulative person, she couldn't have orchestrated everything. And if you go by his version of events with that, he said that they had a real kiss on screen, so they were both kind of showing interest in each other. They both liked each other because they liked the same books and music and all that stuff, so they had a connection, and they had that real kiss, and he agrees that happened, which is because he's the producer, he's kind of crossing more of a line than she is. So that's something. And then later on, he mentions that Amber came to his trailer and they spoke again, and she brought wine and they had another kiss that she initiated, and he kissed her back. But then after that, he decided that because he was still in a relationship with Vanessa, nothing could happen between the two of them. So he told her that, and then it seems like they're saying that Amber completely backed off for the next 2 years. She took no for an answer. So, when I look at that story, it just doesn't seem like Amber's a manipulative person who had her sights set on him, because if she backed off for 2 years, it seems very low effort in his version of events. Doesn't seem like she's manipulating him. It's a direct approach to going for it. Like, she just spoke to him and kissed him. Like, it's very normal. Doesn't seem like she was doing anything sketchy or duplicitous or whatever. So it seemed fine to me. Like, that's the way you pursue someone you like. And then he ended up, after 2 years, they reconnected on the press tour, according to what he said. And then they were both single, so they started a relationship. It was like a secret relationship for a while until he announced that he split from Vanessa. So they dated in secret. So yeah, that's his version of events. So yeah. Now on to Amber's version of events. I thought she gave some very interesting details in her story that no one seems to be talking about enough. And with all this talk about her being a manipulative person, I'm surprised that they don't talk about these details, because they really did caught my attention when I heard her say this stuff. So she talks about how they had a conversation in the first meeting, and they talked about books and the music, and they have a shared interest in wine. And she says that Johnny gave her some books after the first meeting. He gave her the job, and then I think she said that he gifted her more books and a bike when they were working there. And then she says that she had been talking to him about her favorite wine. And as a 22-year-old up-and-coming actress who didn't have a lot of money, her favorite wine at the time was a cheap bargain wine. And she said Malbec, which is like an $11 bottle of wine. And she got him one. And I thought that was very important. And especially with this whole gold digger theory, because it does make her seem a little bit manipulative to me. Like, initially I was thinking, is she trying to give off an impression to him of like being naive and young, and she doesn't know a lot about stuff? But at the same time, I was thinking, even if it's manipulative, it wouldn't be a lie. So that's something that I couldn't work out, and I still don't know the answer to it. But later on, when they do become a couple, they talk about how Amber has a favorite type of wine, and it is a $500 bottle of wine, or $1,300. I'm not sure, but it's like a very expensive wine. And when Johnny Depp mentioned his story, he didn't mention the type of wine that she brought at all. Like, he didn't say if it was cheap or if it was it didn't taste good, anything like that. He didn't. And I think that makes sense because he has this humble, down-to-earth persona. So, and even as a rich person, he doesn't come across as like one of those weird wine drinking people that like slurp it and sniff it and act weird with their wine. And as an alcoholic, I don't think that they would care very much about the type of wine, because wine is wine when you're an alcoholic. So maybe he didn't even care that she bought like a cheap version. Maybe he doesn't care that much about it. But that's something that I couldn't tell between the two of them. And I think that this is something that people should like try to work out, like what the deal is with the two of them, and what he truly thought about her giving him that wine. Did he feel like she was being naive, or did he think that she was doing something calculated and that she was playing him? And did he ever try to work that out? Like after they broke up, did he think about that a little bit more? It's something that I've been thinking about more recently. Also, someone on Johnny Depp's staff alleged that Amber drinks 2 bottles of wine every night or something. And if it's the $500 bottle and she's drinking 2 bottles a night, that's like $30,000 a month. And Johnny Depp had this thing come out about him around that time, where apparently he had been spending like $30,000 a month on wine. And he had this interview with Rolling Stone in 2018 where he said, "It's insulting to say that I spent $30,000 on wine because it was far more." So are they actually trying to say that Amber drank most of the wine that he bought with the $30,000? Are they trying to say that she drank pretty much most of it? Or that was very suspicious to me. Or do they drink a cheaper version? I don't know. I don't think the math works out on that one. It could be a possible lie that Amber drinks 2 bottles a night. I kind of did believe that at first. Like, I don't know. Because maybe she has like a high tolerance, but if she drinks like that expensive a bottle of wine, then probably not. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. In Amber's version of events, things played out slightly differently. She agrees that they kissed on screen, but she doesn't add that story where he said that she came to his trailer and they kissed again. I don't know if that's true or not. It's a he said, she said, but it's not important either way. I don't think it's that relevant. But she also describes him giving her some gifts after they wrapped the filming. One of the gifts he gave her was this white dress that she wore in the film that she really liked. And that is true that he did give her that dress because he spoke about doing it on the Graham Norton show. So that's definitely true. She talks about him giving her more books, expensive books. He also got her this guitar, or 2 guitars, and she said that she sent both of them back. I don't know if that one's not verified, if it's true or not. He also, after they reconnected in the press tour and they started dating, she said that he wanted to buy her a horse, and that she had told him no. And then she says that he went behind her back and went to her dad and ended up buying her the horse. And it's true that he did buy her this horse, and it was something that was written about quite a bit. And people were making fun of him after he did that, because this happened days after he announced that he split from Vanessa, because he and Amber were dating secretly. So he bought her this really public, extravagant gift. And people also making fun of Amber and saying that she was a homewrecker, stuff like that. So it ended up being a bad thing that he did that, because it was public knowledge that he left his partner of 14 years to date an actress who was like half his age. So people were saying that he was a cliche, that maybe he's having a midlife crisis, like that type of thing. So that's something that I've always interesting. And like later on, when Amber's like alleging that people had told him, no one likes you, everyone warned me about you. I wonder if it's like coming from this type of stuff of people making judgments because she's a younger woman and they think a certain thing about him dating someone that much younger than him. So that's something, and that was a true thing. Like these are factually true things that he was pursuing her. He was the one who was wooing her. She couldn't have orchestrated everything. So she's making that point to people that she's not that in control of things, and he has a pattern of gift giving in this way with his exes. Like he does do extravagant gifts like this. He also had a bar built on his Bahamas property to look exactly like the one in the Rum Diary, and he got the movie set designer to create the plan, and he surprised Amber with this on when they went on vacation to the island. So that's something that has been well documented thing, that he has been putting in a lot of effort to give her all these gifts, and she's been pretty low effort in her pursuit of him. Like she hasn't done that much. Like it doesn't seem like she did that much to get him to like her. So I thought that was very interesting. And then it leads into this thing where she alleged that he physically assaulted her for the first time. The story about his tattoo, she said that he slapped her 3 times, and the tattoo said "Wino forever." And she says to apologize after the fact, he sent her a case of very expensive wine. So I thought, when I heard that story, I thought that's such a twisted joke to send a case of wine when the whole problem was that she's saying that he hit her based on a tattoo that said "Wino forever." Like it's kind of a sick joke. And I don't know, it's such a clever thing. Like if she made this up, it's such a clever thing to do, because there are other jokes that have been made throughout the relationship, like dark jokes like this about the abuse, the alleged abuse. So you have to wonder, like, is she the one who's making the joke right now, or was it him who came up with this joke? And this is something that came up again with the second assault story with the disco bloodbath, and he was the one who initiated that and sent her a message about there's a book called that, and she said we need it, and she was saying it's about Friday, and he said, why would you remind me of this heinous moment? And then he called her a funny bitch. So he didn't do a very good job at explaining what the heinous moment was and why it's so funny. And then to go on with that, like with his own abuse, like his finger story, he sent his doctor a message saying, "Thank you for everything. I have chopped off my left middle finger as a reminder that I should never cut my finger off again." So that's Johnny making a joke about the alleged abuse to his finger. And again, it's making him look very suspicious to me, because it definitely is a joke, because he's talking about his left middle finger and the one that he lost was his right middle finger. So he's joking about it, but he's not referencing the vodka bottles. That seemed very odd to me. But yeah, I thought these were very interesting things. And if Amber made this stuff up, she's not able to orchestrate everything. She can't orchestrate the things that he says. So that's something that I keep in mind when I made my decision about who's like telling the truth and who's not. It's not to say that Amber's telling the truth about everything, but there's certain things that he said that I think I just like the Amber stories more. She tells a more complete story. It answers all the questions that I had as much as possible. So that's why I like her more compared to him. And with both version of events of how they got together, I think you can see, like, based on the actual evidence, you can see how low effort she was and how aggressive he was in showering her with love in the beginning. Like, just on the face of it, like, these things are very clear to me. I read this quote about Johnny's lawyers saying that they didn't like how he was cited in the same breath as disgraced film mogul Harvey Weinstein, who had by then become notorious for carrying out heinous assaults on women. So what I've been learning throughout this trial is that maybe Johnny Depp kind of believes that he was the same as like someone like Harvey Weinstein. Like, based on their relationship, Amber is very different to his other exes because he's never dated someone who like worked for him. He was a producer on the Rum Diary film, and the way that they got together, there's some questionable details here and there, but one thing that I think is true is that Amber says that he invited her to a hotel room, and he said that the director was going to be there and they were going to talk about the film, and she says that she wasn't naive. Like, she didn't think that they were going to talk about the film, and she didn't think the director was going to be there, and she's making it seem like she wanted a romantic thing with them, kind of like she was kind of expecting that based on the way he invited her. So, and later on, because Johnny does act a little bit paranoid and jealous about stuff like that, like that there are those text messages about her going to meetings and he doesn't want her to go, and she's saying that he's telling her that she'd be foolish and naive to think that people would want to go to a concert with her in a platonic way. And he sent this threatening email to London Fields people, and he said, "These people are nobodies in this business, and they should be made to understand that we will ruin them instantly." And it was all like caps locks as well. Like, it was like very aggressive, and so he does kind of seem like a Harvey Weinstein type fella in a way, and with this whole thing with Amber, like, he's saying that she knew what she was doing when she went up there to the hotel room and stuff. When she's going over to these people and having these meetings with them, he's like, they only want a certain thing, and like, if you go there for this and that, like, he makes it seem like it's her fault if something happens. I don't know, like, there's something about it that seems very sketchy to me. And I think that maybe in his head he might think of himself as like one of the good guys. Like with the London Fields email, I kind of see it both ways. Like, I think he was kind of in the right to say what he said, because Amber has this clause in her contract that she's not going to do any nudity, and the film that they did, they had filmed some scenes with a double, and they didn't know about it, and he agreed to do the film. He had an uncredited role in the film, and I think maybe that was part of the deal, is that he gets to say some of that stuff. I'm not sure, but I think he was right. Like, that movie had unnecessary nudity, and even in the Rum Diaries, he talked about how she was supposed to have a nude scene, but he, as the producer, decided that it was unnecessary, so they cut it out completely, and they figured out how to do implied nudity without her actually having to do it. And sometimes I think that Amber might be okay with him doing some of that stuff. She doesn't talk about the experience of London Fields being that bad. She said that he proposed to her when they were filming that. So I don't know if he was abusive back then or not. She's saying it's very difficult to understand because it's so up and down with them. But ultimately, I think she might have been okay with it then. However, we do have evidence later on where in Australia he wrote those messages where it said "Easy Amber, Billy Bob," and Billy Bob was in that film. So when she's saying that he took a role in that movie to keep an eye on her, it is possible that is why he decided to do it. But there's a lot left to the imagination with this, and the other text message with him that I really don't like is he said, "She is so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was a quiet mate. Although she has hammered with me that what a sad old man has been, I am." So I don't like that he's describing it as her ambition. Like, he thinks that it's up to her. Like, if these bad things that happen in the industry, it would be her fault. And I think it's a very old-fashioned idea that was supposed to be erased after the Me Too movement. And I don't like that that he's trying to say that it's her being career driven to take these meetings with these guys, and he thinks that the reason why she ended up dating him, like, a part of his mind does believe that she might have dated him for his connections, when I think that the reason why she liked him was probably because she did find him like just by his looks, she thought he was attractive. They had the same interests. Like, I think she did fall in love with him for the right reasons, and I don't like that he twisted the idea of it in that moment. And this is the problem with men in power dating people that work for them, because there will be those doubts that could fester on, and they could be legitimate, but they might not be. And I don't like that his warped his head, to say that it's her ambition and that she is in the control, and he's not taking responsibility for the fact that he was the producer. He was doing wrong moves. If he invited her to his house, to his hotel room, saying that they were going to have a meeting, and it wasn't actually a meeting, he only wanted her there to talk to her and do whatever. If that's what his intention was, he shouldn't have described it as a meeting, and that was his fault. And I don't like that he tries to put that on Amber and say, well, it's her fault because she went up there and she knew what these things were. And because Amber said that she knew what it was, it does make her seem genuinely naive to me when she's saying that she went up there and she knew the director wasn't going to be there. It's like she's trying to fool herself into thinking she has more control than she actually does. And now, after their relationship and they broke up, there's this thing where he tried to get her, he wanted her to be fired from her movie Aquaman. He was unsuccessful, but it seems like he's, in his own way, he's trying to get her fired. And those are the things I really didn't like that came out about him in this trial. And it's doing exactly what her op-ed said, and it's everything wrong. So, yeah, this is what I really ended up disliking about him. And he can say, he's not like Harvey Weinstein all he wants, but he's exactly like Harvey Weinstein from what I can tell. And the more he tries to run away from it and deny it, the worse it looks for him, I think. Recently, Dakota Johnson said something because she had been attached to this case because she made a comment not a comment, but just she thought his story of how he lost his finger was weird sounding, and people said, oh, she thought it was suspicious sounding. And to this day, he has never given a good answer to how he lost his finger. I think it's a mystery to everyone on this planet. I don't think he even knows how he lost it to this day. The vodka story, he couldn't get a doctor in to say that it made sense to lose it the way he described. With the vodka bottles, it just seems so unreasonable. The one that he got in said that maybe his hand moved, and again, if you picture the scene, if he knows how to move, how could he not move in the entire time it would take for Amber to pick up the second bottle and throw it directly at his hand? Like, she's aiming low for his hand. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so Dakota Johnson didn't appreciate being attached to this stuff. She doesn't like it at all. And I learned some interesting things about her family life that I didn't know about when I dug into this, because she's been talking about her grandmother, who used to work for Alfred Hitchcock, and she alleges that he sexually assaulted her. And Dakota's been given some interesting stories that seem to be weirdly familiar to the stuff that Johnny was doing to Amber. So, first of all, Tippi Hedren, she began describing how, in the beginning, her relationship with the director was, he was quite protective over her, and then over time things in their relationship escalated, and they had some uncomfortable moments, and she ended up rejecting his advances to her. Like, she claims that he once threw himself on her in the back of a limo, and there's this other time in her dressing room where he allegedly put his hands on her in a sexual way, and then she fought him, and the more she fought him, the more aggressive he became. Amber said something similar, like, except she didn't fight him. She says that she laughed off what happened, but basically she's saying that Johnny pushed her on the sofa thingy in a playful way, and she says that he also kicked up the back of her robe and lifted up his eyebrows and said yum. So all those things are termed as sexual harassment, and they don't need Me Too's. Like, even with the Tippi Hedren thing, like, there weren't any Me Too's to her thing. So, and you don't need, like, multiple people to come forward to be believed, I don't think. When it comes to, like, sexual harassment stuff, like, sometimes there'll be a lot of people that will come forward, but if it's just one, like, I don't know why this woman would lie about stuff like that. And the other thing that Dakota Johnson said is that after she rejected him, he kind of he was terrorizing her, apparently, and he wanted to stop her career, and he sent her daughter this little coffin with a miniature version of her mother in it, which is a very weird, dark, is a joke, but it's a very sick joke to send. And then again, it reminded me of all the sick jokes that we've been hearing about Amber for this entire trial. This whole trial was the smoking gun. It's global humiliation. That was the goal for this whole thing. And the thing on his bed, right? That's a sick joke that he pulled, that she can't detach that from her identity now because he said it. Even though there's no evidence of her doing what he said, he just said this thing, and now it's forever attached to her, even though it would make no sense for her to have, I'm talking about the poo on the bed, by the way. Yeah, so that's something that he did, and also all those colorful jokes that he texts to his friends about like drowning her, burning her, raping her dead corpse, all that stuff. So there's all those dark jokes about her. And like, even if that wasn't in response to Amber's alleged abuse, but say if it were, like the alleged abuse that she's done to him, like hitting him, and insulting him, that's all her alleged abuse to him was. Like, even if that was what she did, none of that makes any sense that he would write that stuff. And I don't know why it's being dropped as if it's nothing. Like, no one makes those kinds of jokes. It's very bizarre. People have been making these excuses about how it is normal for victims to fantasize about, you know, murdering their victims, their abusers and stuff like that. Not when the abuse is just hitting him and like with her little hands that he's not afraid of. She tells him, "I can't hurt you," and he agrees, and he's like, "Yeah, you can't deck me." And when she's saying that, "I can't overpower you," he's like, "Why did you try?" Like, he's definitely not afraid of her physically hurting him. That's never the thing. So him fantasizing about doing that kind of thing really doesn't make any sense. And I just want to say that all her insults are facts, and I don't like that it's being made out to be such a bad thing that she said what she said, because I think they are all facts. And it's outrageous that with the text that he sent, for him to be so arrogant, like enough to think like no one will believe that he's a rapist, even though he's joked about raping his girlfriend. He thinks that he is so unbelievable for people to think that he could do that type of thing. I think it's not normal at all. I think it reads like he is a game player and that he enjoyed the challenge, and that's what I'm getting from it. But that's what I think about this whole thing.
We need to change the way we talk about women on a social level, on a political level. We need to not wait for 15, 20 women to come forward before we stop asking what's your motive. We really need to realize that if justice and equality is denied to us, one of us, it's denied to everyone.